and tonight's topic is on detox. So before we get into the topic, I just want to give you a little bit of a background about myself and how I got into this, because I didn't really cover that last week, and some of you don't know me. So when I was about 14, I had some elbow problems. I was a pitcher, and I played a lot of baseball, pretty good baseball player. And I went to this chiropractor who did something called kinesiology, and that's a technical term for muscle testing. So he started, first of all, I told him I had pain right here, and he started checking out my neck and checking out my shoulder. And so in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, why is this guy checking out my neck? Why is he checking out my shoulder? Because my pain's right here. So this is a little odd. So he was testing things, and I remember he had my arm up like this, and I couldn't hold his resistance. This is the deltoid muscle. So I had a weak deltoid, and this muscle was weak also, a rotator cuff muscle. So he started to manipulate and massage them in a specific way, and it was pretty sore when he was doing it. And then he made an adjustment on my neck because I had a nerve that was irritated that was feeding the shoulder. And then he went back and retested the muscles right after I got the treatment, like, within moments. And it was like he could sit on this muscle. I had no problem holding it, And then he said, well, how is your elbow now? And I did this, and I did this, and I said, wow, I think it's gone. It didn't even touch my elbow. So that was my first experience with any type of holistic healthcare. And what does holistic mean? Holistic means the whole person, right? You're looking at the whole person. It's all connected. So just because you have pain in a certain area doesn't mean that's where the problem is. In fact, where the pain is often not where the problem is. It's usually from a distance to that. But in mainstream medicine, what do? They look at the problem, right? You have a foot problem, go to the podiatrist, right? You have a gut problem, go to the gastroenterologist. So we're at Chagrin Natural Health Clinic, we're kind of a one-stop shop. So we help most health conditions, whether it's back pain, neck pain, joint pain, elbow pain, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, asthma, allergies, digestive issues, blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. We can help most of those conditions, and we'll get into how we do that. But that's really how I got into what I do. I had this great experience with a chiropractor. So I wanted to play professional baseball, so I ended up getting a scholarship to Boston College, transferred to Kent State, finished out in the early 90s, and didn't quite make it into the pros, but had a great experience. And that's when my dad's health started to deteriorate. My dad was a type 2 diabetic, and when he was in his late 50s, early 60s, he started to be placed on more and more medication. His health started to plummet. He didn't really take care of himself like he could or should, and I wasn't what I am now. I wasn't a chiropractor. I didn't know what I know now. So he didn't really have he wasn't in a position where he could go see someone like that, and it just wasn't in the cards for him. So what I saw was more and more medication, ended up in a nursing home, less and less health as the meds went up, and he ended up dying at 62 from congestive heart failure due to complications from type 2 diabetes. So when the dust settled, I looked at that picture, and I said, you know what, there's got to be a better way. More and more medication, his health didn't improve at all. In fact, it got worse. So it was sort of a unconscious jolt to look into this field. And I always had an interest in this field, but I never wanted to go back and take the science classes. I got to take chemistry, but you know what? I just decided one day, it was like a snap decision. You know what? I can do this. And so it's not that I didn't have the brains to do it. It was just like, it just felt like a lot, right, to take on. I'd already graduated and with a marketing degree and et cetera, et cetera. So I took the plunge. I went back to chiropractic school. I went from 97 to 2000. I graduated when I was 29 because I had worked in the business field for a few years prior to that, prior to going back to school. And I set up shop in Chagrin Falls in 2001 actually. So we're celebrating 25 years in practice. So that's kind of cool. We can finally say that. I know, time flies. It's unbelievable. So I have a 18-year-old and I have a 23-year-old daughter. One's going to Kent, not because I'm going there, but it just so happens. She's studying nutritional sciences. So we'll see if she ends up helping out the practice. And then my other daughter plays the upright double bass, and she's in her first year of grad school at Rice University down in Houston. So that's my story, okay? So, this field is a very enjoyable field, and I like what I do because there's always a different problem to solve in my clinic. Because we help so many conditions and we're able to do that, if I just treated back pain all day, I would get so bored. Or just neck pain. Don't get me wrong, I do it and I enjoy it, but I like the randomity of different things different problems to solve and different conditions and that type of thing. It's enjoyable. So we're talking about detox tonight. And there's a lot spoken about detox. There's a lot of positive things spoken about detox. There's a lot of negative things. There's a lot of good data out there. There's a lot of false data out there. So I'm going to kind of clear a lot of that up for you guys and get into the topic now. Okay? So detox. Why is detox necessary? Why do we need to detox in the 21st century?
Because we're being assaulted every day, environmentally, our foods, our water, we're just being assaulted.
That's right, we're being assaulted every day.
Yeah.
Every day. So between the food, what's in the food, between what's sprayed in the air, environmentally, like in a house or a office or a hotel, or let's say you go to the airport, you travel, just think of all that you're being exposed to. And I don't mean germs. Think about all the jet fuel, what's in jet fuel, what's in all the soot and all that. Think about what's being sprayed on our plants that we eat. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, right? Think about dish soaps, detergents, hand soaps, spray cleaners, Clorox bleach, hairspray, cosmetics. All these things are toxic to the body. To name a few more, how about Febreze? How about Glade plugins? Okay, you might as well spray cancer in the air if you're spraying Febreze on a regular basis. It's cancer-causing agents that you're spraying into the air. Those Glade plugins, those little things you hang in the off the rearview mirror in the car, those scented, whatever they are, deodorizers, they're toxic. Okay, so I have to educate a lot of patients about that. One time I had this lady that came, she worked at Nestle, and she's about 40 years old. She had a very bad cough that she just couldn't get rid of. And she went to this medical doctor. She got this test and that test and blah, 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 blah. It just went on and on and on. She finally decided she was referred to me. She came in, I did my testing, which I'll kind of explain and demo how I do that. But I found artificial fragrances was the main culprit in her lungs. And so I said, well, do you spray Febreze or aerosol sprays in your house? Well, yeah, I do. Do you have those little plug-ins that deodorize rooms? Well, yeah, I do. Do you have one of those things in your car too? Oh yeah, I like smells. Do you use scented candles? Yes, I do. So she was just poisoning herself. So she was smart enough to just stop all that stuff cold turkey, and within 2 weeks the cough was completely gone. Just like that. It's not always that easy, but in her case, she was just poisoning herself. So just to kind of piggyback on some of these cleaners and things like that, let's talk about plastics. How much are we affected and exposed to plastics? I mean, the last thing you want to do is microwave in plastic or reuse plastic containers over and over and over again. Those plastics leach into your body and they are hormone disruptors. They cause hormone disruption, cancer causing, lots of problems. So hopefully I'm not, deterring you and making you feel like, oh my God, there's no hope, right? We can't escape. Well, I mean, in some ways, it's hard to escape these things. There's lots that you can do, and you can, get the cleaners that are non-toxic. There's plenty of options out there. Seventh Generation is a decent brand. There's lots of brands out there you can research now. There are non-toxic cosmetics that women can use. You can find scented candles that are scented with essential oils. You can get one of those essential oil diffusers that makes the room smell good with, lemon essential oil, lime essential oil, whatever you like. So there's plenty of options out there, but we're going to be exposed to this stuff, so we need to know what to do, to clean our bodies out. So when you are toxic, and assure me everybody is toxic to one degree or another, you are certain to have nutritional deficiencies and organ dysfunction and toxicity in the organs. So when you need to detox, there's going to be nutritional deficiencies and there's going to be organs not functioning. So when your body's toxic, why might someone have a nutritional deficiency? I'm just going to answer that question. These toxins, they block pathways in the body. So, for example, when you produce a hormone in your body, most of the hormones are produced are developed from cholesterol, or they're derived from cholesterol. So cholesterol is actually not a bad thing, it's a good thing. We need cholesterol. And so cholesterol gets converted into this, which gets converted into this chemical, which gets converted into this chemical, which gets converted into cortisol or estrogen or progesterone. Those are all important hormones that we need. Well, if you have toxicity, there are toxins that block those conversions. So you're not going to be able to make the hormones that you need. And there's a lot of different pathways in the body that help you convert food to energy. Toxins will block those. Okay? So it's important to identify certainly what the toxicities are, the specific heavy metals or chemical toxins that we're exposed to, what organs aren't functioning properly, but what nutritional deficiencies are being caused by this. So what I'd like to do now is, before I show you how we identify this stuff, I want to throw a little curveball in here. So we could actually cross out the detox, the toxicity at the top, and we could replace that with the word sugar. I always hammer sugar in my lectures because if you don't learn anything but this, sugar is bad. And sugar causes most health issues. And it's addictive, right? So sugar is going to cause nutritional deficiencies, and sugar can cause toxicity and organ dysfunction. Believe it or not. So I'm going to ask you guys, how do you think sugar causes nutritional deficiencies? You don't answer because you were here last time. Anybody?
Could it be spikes in blood sugar?
Spikes in your blood sugar?
Yeah.
Well, certainly if you get a spike in your blood sugar, that can be a stress on the body, and that can deplete you of nutrients, sure. Sugar is, like if you drink a pop and a Snicker bar for a snack, that's empty calories. You're not getting really any quality nutrition in that. It may give you a temporary boost, but it's empty calories. So you're not going to get the nutrients that you need. So you're going to get nutritional deficiencies if you're living on that stuff. I mean, even if you eat perfect organic, you're still going to have some nutritional deficiencies in our country because the soil is depleted of a lot of trace minerals. Even if you eat perfect, it may not be as toxic, the food that you're eating, that organic food, but it's not going to have the nutrition. That's why you need to supplement your diet with whole food supplements, which I'll talk about later. But sugar causes nutritional deficiencies. Another way it does, when you eat sugar, it goes into your bloodstream and it acts like a magnet, and it sucks calcium and magnesium and zinc, and it'll collect it, and the sugar will pass around in your bloodstream and it'll deposit it in the joints, which can contribute to joint pain, arthritis, and buildup of toxicity in the joints. Now, how do you think sugar might cause organ dysfunction? Another way. Yeah,
It causes inflammation.
that's right. Yeah. It causes inflammation. So it's like adding fuel to a flame. So when you eat sugar, it's going to inflame your body. It's actually, there's a study done that when you eat sugar, the moment it hits your tongue, it causes your brain to swell and your liver to swell measurably. Yeah. So again, sugar's bad. Sugar's bad. Now, let's dive in a little deeper on this. Okay. So this is an artery. And this is a cell. So when you eat a piece of salmon, let's say you eat a meal that consists of salmon, broccoli, and a salad with lots of good veggies on it, and in some type of oil and vinegar dressing, let's say. Okay, so all that food is going to go into the stomach. It's going to get broken down into the bloodstream. And is there much sugar in that meal? Not really, right? So you're going to have normal amounts of sugar, pretty low amounts of sugar. You're going to have fats, carbohydrates, proteins, right? They're going to get broken down into amino acids and all these little pieces, parts. But the takeaway here is you're going to get small amounts of sugar that's going to go into the cell for energy. Okay? And that cell's going to function optimally. Okay, now let's say that you eat a bowl of spaghetti, you drink a Coke with it, and you finish that off with 3 cookies and some ice cream. Okay, so that's a lot of sugar and starch, right? So you're going to have a lot of sugar in the bloodstream. Okay, and so the cell only needs a small amount of sugar. What's going to happen to that excess sugar when the cells have enough? It goes to the liver, right, and it'll get stored, okay? As some of it will get stored as what is called glycogen. That's just stored sugar, okay? But I mean, there's still going to be a total excess once that's stored, because most people have enough of that stored already in their liver. It's actually going to get stored also as fat. So how do you get fat? You don't get fat from eating red meat, butter, and oil. You get fat from eating bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, cookies, cakes, candy, pop, the high starch carbohydrates, because it stimulates fat storage. Now, you see this little red bridge here? Okay, that's a hormone that lowers blood sugar. Anyone know what that's called? What do diabetics lack? Insulin, yeah. So insulin is a hormone, and there's a gland called the pancreas. It looks like a sausage, and that's what produces insulin, okay? So insulin is a bridge that takes sugar out of the bloodstream into the cell, but it also causes fat storage, and it causes the blood vessels to become thicker and less pliable, which can increase blood pressure. And this is over time it can do this if you're eating too much sugar and starch. It can stimulate the adrenal glands to make adrenaline, to raise your blood pressure, and it causes cortisol to get increased. Cortisol is that stress hormone that we're supposed to have. These stress hormones are important to have to help us deal with stress, but the problem is we're all under chronic stress from poor diet and just living, the go lifestyle, being exposed to all the toxicities and etc. So the takeaway here is, if there's one thing you can do to modify your stress more than anything, it's keep the sugar to a minimum and keep the starch to a minimum. That way you're not going to cause a lot of this inflammation and fat storage and stress hormone production. So if you eat about 75 grams of carbs per day, that's about what the body needs. Okay, and there's a book called Life Without Bread, and it was written by a German guy, and he figured that was about 75 grams of carbs, and I found that to hold true. If you're more active, you can get away with a little bit more, but the older you get, it makes it tricky. So, just to give you an idea, if you eat 2 pieces of bread, an apple, and an orange, that's about 75 grams of carbs. Okay, so I work with my patients to figure out, first of all, how many carbohydrates are eating, and then what I do is I have them wean themselves down over time and work on that. And there isn't one diet for everybody. Everybody's a little bit different. Some people can eat a little more vegetarian, a little less protein. Some people just need more protein. It just depends on the case. Okay, but I find in general that protein and vegetables, minimal grains and starches, keep the fruit low. Usually people do really well on that diet. Okay. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to grab something. So give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a little demo on how I figure out a patient's nutritional deficiencies and toxicities. Okay? Are you going to be the guinea pig? Can you come up and be the host or the model? Come on up. All right, thank you. All right. So, can you hold your arm out? Okay, good. So everybody has a certain amount of strength and energy to them. Actually, come over here just a little bit. That's good. All right. I'm going to push. I want you to push as hard as I'm pushing. Perfect. Good. Now, certainly I could wrestle her down, but I'm just feeling for the muscle to lock or for a strength, okay? I want her to match my pressure. So this muscle testing business that I do, it's an art and a science. It's not something that, I will make it look easy because I've done it hundreds of thousands of times, but it takes a lot of practice because you have to do it the same way every time. You have to make sure the patient is with you and all that good stuff. So what I do is I push on the patient's body. So let's say I push on the front of her brain, okay, and it's nice and strong. But let's say I push on the top of her head and we get a weak response. All of a sudden, the arm, and I'm just make-believing here, okay? See how that drops? okay? And let's say I push on the heart and we get a weak response. I push on the liver and we're nice and strong. So I go through all of these organs and I figure out which ones are strong and which ones are weak. And the body is sort of like a feedback mechanism. This muscle testing business tells me what's going on with the body. Then what I'll do is I'll figure out, all right, is there a nutritional deficiency going on in that area? So for the brain, I would pull a supplement in glass and I would place it right next to that area. And if it's the right supplement for the brain, I get a strength. Okay, because remember before, without the supplement in the picture, in the equation, that was weak. I just keep believing, okay? You're nice and strong. Okay, so now if I put the correct supplement there, we're gonna get a strength. If it's not the correct supplement that's gonna feed her system properly, we'll get a weakness again. So sometimes I'm reaching for 2, 3, 4 different supplements before I find the right one that matches, okay? Thank you. So that's how I determine nutritional deficiencies, okay? Now, with toxicities, we have homeopathic vials, little tubes in these boxes, many, many of them. And they contain most of the heavy metals that we're exposed to and most of the chemicals that we're exposed to. Plastics, dyes, pigments, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole bunch of, it's a lot of stuff, okay? And in one vial, sometimes there's 20 different things that we're exposed to, okay? So it really covers the gamut of toxicity that we're exposed to. And what I do is I'll actually place those tubes on the body while I'm pressing on the organ. And if that causes a change in the strength, then we know we're identifying some type of toxicity in those vials. And we'll narrow it down by having the patient touch each one. Understand this seems a little weird and different. I've been doing it for 25 years. It's been around forever. And if it's new to you, it's just new to you. You know, like if I said, did you know that we have airplanes that fly people around the world and you've never been exposed to that before? You might think, oh, that's weird. Really? Well, it's been around for, 75 years, but it's just new to you. So anyways, this is like reproducible and demonstrable, and it just, how does it work? Some people ask me. It works really well. It works really well, okay? So that's how we determine the toxicities, and then we'll figure out what supplement will or herb might detox that area. So for example, I might do a scan on a patient. I might find their frontal brain weak. I might find their heart to be weak and their liver's weak, okay? And then I narrow down what's going on with those areas. Is there any toxicity? Is there any food sensitivity to those areas? Is there any heavy metals or chemical toxicity and other things I check for? And then what I'll do is I'll give them the correct nutrient or supplement or herb to negate the weakness and to handle that problem. So someone may have 3 or 4 items that they need to handle all the weak areas, and then I get them on that program, monitor them over time, work with them on their diet, and get them through the detox part of that and start rebuilding. And I'd say 95% of the time people get well. It's not always a quick fix though, but people get well. The people that don't get well as quickly, it's because they've had the issue very, very long. They've had it for decades or years. Okay, so sometimes if it takes a year or 2 for someone to get well that's had a problem for 30 years, 30 years, 2 years, that's not a long period of time, But then you have someone, they've had the issue for 6 months, they're in pretty good health, they could get well and feel better within a day, or weeks. So it just depends on the case, and everybody's a little different. I wanted to get into sort of some of the general detox products that we use that some of you might be interested in. This product is called SP Complete, and this is another detox product called SP Detox Balance. So these products are from a company called Standard Process. And Standard Process, if you aren't familiar, they've been around since 1929, And the majority of what they have in their products, they grow on a beautiful 100-acre farm. Maybe it's even bigger than that now, but dozens and dozens of beautiful acres of organic soil and crops. And they rotate their crops properly. Their topsoil's like something like this deep. It's like nothing other. They're like the leaders in organic farming. They rotate their crops. They do crop covering and proper fertilization. Everything is as clean as it's going to be, and they really have nutrient-dense vegetables that they grind up and process at very low temperatures and very quickly right off the farm. They basically drive the tractor of, like, let's just, they have beets that they grow there, for example. They'll pick the beets, they'll drive it right to the processing facility, like, 0.2 of a mile down the little beaten path, and then they'll clean those up and they'll dehydrate them down at low temperatures and process it, and they'll put it in pill form within days. So there's just nothing like it. No company could duplicate this right now. They'd have to sell their products for 3 times the amount, but they've been around for so long that they can keep their costs down, so it's reasonable, So SP Complete. So this is a great detox shake. It has organic flax meal. It has some rice protein. It has a little whey protein. They have a dairy-free product. They call it SP Complete dairy-free as well, if you're sensitive to whey. It has organic buckwheat leaf. It has organic Brussels sprouts. It has organic kale. It has organic alfalfa. It has sunflower lecithin powder, grapeseed extract, carrot root, and red wine extract. So, great product. And then this is called SP Detox Balance. I like this one. It's a chai flavored, and it has a little more oomph to it. This one we tend to team it up with a couple other supplements that round out the detox, and it's a 21-day detox. You take the shakes and some of the pills, and you do this in a specific process for about 21 days. It's more of a cookie cutter approach. If I'm working with a patient one-on-one, I'll often put them on that if I think it's necessary, but a lot of times I'm just tailor making it based on the muscle testing and what they specifically need. But this is a good one. It's very similar in its ingredients, but it has a little more in it. It has some pumpkin seed powder. It has apple pectin, juniper berry, Spanish black radish, burdock. It's got organic broccoli in it, which really flushes the liver, and some milk thistle. So that's that. We're kind of starting to wind down a little bit, so is there any question or comment or anything you want to ask? Nina?
Are they like the same as humans, where like, let's say a frog like got parasites and a human got parasites, would they both take the same supplement?
Well, not always, but often cats and dogs. But we can talk about that after if you want. We'll talk about it. Anybody else have a question or no? Okay, good. I was thorough. Did I throw a lot of information at you, or was it? No, just enough?
Yeah. I do have one more
Sure.
thing to ask. As you know, since I'm a patient, I can't handle a lot of carbs at all. I'm mostly carnivore.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if somebody like me could survive on an only meat diet.
Sure. So the question is, like the carnivore diet, an only meat diet. She does very, very well on that. I mean, when you're up in the tundra and you're an Eskimo, Are you eating any plants? No, nothing grows up there, right? So they're living on seal oil, whale blubber, and fish, basically. So, it's like 60% fat and the rest protein. And there were studies done early 1900s. They go up there, they don't have any cavities, they didn't have cancer. They were very, very healthy, the Eskimos. So certainly you can. If you have a lot of immune issues, you have to be very careful about sugar and carbs because they feed bacteria, they feed viruses, they feed fungus, they feed parasites. So you want to starve those guys out. And so if someone has a sensitive immune system, they may want to be careful of, they likely would want to be careful of too much sugar, okay? So there isn't one diet that fits everybody, but certainly some people do very, very well on that. And you may do well on that for a while, and then your body shifts, and then you can eat some more veggies or some berries or, something like that. So,
Okay. Thanks.
yes, there isn't a one size fits all for anybody, and there's a lot of nutritional influencers out there. If you go on social media and they say, you got to do this, it's all about the MTHFR gene. And if you have that gene, here's what you need to do and it's going to solve all your problems. It's not that way. Okay? I'm just giving one, off the cuff example. You really need a personalized approach for most people. If you want to serve the masses, you're probably going to help about 20% with your health advice, because it's very difficult to serve everybody because everybody is a little bit different. You know what I mean? So it's kind of frustrating for me because sometimes it would be nicer to just be able to, promote a diet and a supplement regime, a protocol, and just promote it to a large group of people and say this is going to help you. But I get such good results with the way I do it. I'd rather get 90% success rate than 40 or 50% success rate. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of?
Yes.
Yeah.
You must be pleased that whoever did it, the food pyramid's been turned upside down.
Yeah, the food pyramid has been turned upside down. Everyone heard that? It's like, duh, right? And yeah, the brief history of that is the cereal companies are what created the food pyramid. And what's the largest food group in the old one? Grains, right? So it's like 6 to 9 servings of grain. So yeah, definitely that's a bonus. That's a big bonus.
Good
Yeah.
question. Bringing up MTHFR, have you noticed that any of your clients with that gene mutation do not need folate? Because
Yeah.
I actually never brought that up to you.
Yeah, I don't
You have
even.
never said I needed folate.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't even really listen to that anymore because I've got people on just whole food folic acid and not the one that's methylated, and they do just fine.
I
So,
thought we're never supposed to take folate when you have,
well, this is whole food. This is a
Oh,
whole food
okay.
folic acid
so
product.
you're getting it,
from
like
standard
that's what I
process.
try to do is find the food that has it.
Yeah. So I use standard process. Actually has a whole food methyl folate product. So MTHFR gene, for those of you, it's a gene, and if the gene doesn't work properly, it's hard to absorb folic acid and B12 properly, supposedly, okay? And there are many MTHFR genes in the body, there isn't just one. So, and I don't know how many there are. There might be 10 or 12 of them, or maybe there's even more that have been discovered, but there's quite a few of them. And so maybe if you have 10 out of 12 that are defective, then maybe, okay, you seriously need to supplement with a special type of folic acid that is what is called methylated. There's a special chemical that the body can't attach to it, that's already attached to it when you ingest the pill. It's called methylated B. You may need that. So it has its place. Let me put it that way. It has its place. But when Gary Brecka says you need to, it's all about the MTHFR gene, that's a sales pitch, because it's not all about that. It's all about it if you have the problem, and it's not a big hitting solution. Like avoid sugar, that's kind of like a big hitting solution. If I had a group of 50 people and they all cut out sugar and came back in a month, 90% of them would be better in some way. They'd have less pain, they'd feel more energy, they'd feel their mood would be better, would have lost weight. So that's like a hard-hitting nutritional tidbit.
Do you detox parasites?
We do, yes. Yeah, we do. I have a gentleman who has tinnitus ringing in the ears, and he's got heavy metal toxicity in the ears, and he has a parasite situation. And so he came in tonight. It was a 6-week on the program, and he came in. He was much brighter. He was real depressed and just sort of down, and he's like a scientist too. He works for General Electric, I think. Anyways, he's one of those guys that's very black and white, and I'm working with those people. Like if there's no change, it's hard for them to admit that there's a change. It's hard for them to see change in life. And today he came in and he said, maybe I'm a little better. And internally I said, yes. because you could see it. He was like chipper and like with it, So, and parasites was one of the major components of that. So.
They seem to be hitting on it commercialized on television.
They do, yeah. Parasites are big, which is fine, because it is a big problem. When it's a problem, and it's more of a problem than MTHFR gene, I think. It's a pretty big issue. It's very common for healthcare practitioners to fall in love with a certain supplement or a certain cause. And I mean, I've done it before. And then you're proven wrong, and then you have to step back and say, okay, I've fallen in love with this supplement for all these problems.
Do you feel cancer is a parasite?
Do I find cancer as a parasite? Well, they've studied cancer cells, and every cancer cell, according to this one study, there's a parasite in it. There's a heavy metal, there's a fungus, and I think a virus. So I think it's a component for sure. Yeah, I do.
I don't think they address it at all.
No, they just kill the cells.
Yeah.
It's chemo. They just kill the cells or suppress the immune system.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I had a patient who had uterine cancer, and she got a hysterectomy, but they still wanted to do immunosuppressive treatment just in case they didn't get it all, but it was self-contained. It totally ruined her gut. She had chronic diarrhea. She had to go on prednisone finally, and that calmed it down, and I had about 2 months to try and really build up her gut. And I just saw her again today, and that was probably about 6 months ago, and we're finally getting some formed stools. But it took a lot of gut building supplements and digestive support and lots of things. So it just, it's hard on the body, some of these conventional treatments.
Very hard.
Yeah, very hard.
Does a discussion on lectins fit in with this topic?
Lectins. So there's a Dr. Gundry that wrote a book on lectins. I think it's one of those same kind of things, right? Lectins fixes everything. Maybe 20%. Maybe 20%, okay? You gotta watch out for the sugar before I would even consider lectins. But it can help people if they have an issue. But I think it's overblown, personally. And he's a marketing machine. He's everywhere. So, which is fine. I mean, at least it's natural stuff, right? And he has some good things to say. But lectins are in the seeds of tomatoes, and are they in nightshades? I think they're in
Yeah.
certain nuts,
Whole grains.
whole grains. Yeah,
So, what he said was that lectins make little tiny tears in the intestine, and
leaky gut. Yeah,
and you have leaky gut.
Yeah.
But if you have probiotics and prebiotics, it heals it.
yeah. There's a lot of ways to heal the gut. Probiotics are the friendly bacteria that kind of keep the gut in check. Most of those are in colon. Then you have the small intestine where all your food is absorbed in the stomach, and that's really where the leaky gut happens. What happens is the stomach, the body digests your food. It goes into the stomach, fully gets broken down for the most part, and then it goes into your small intestine where it gets absorbed into the bloodstream, and that it's permeable, right? It allows good things through and bad things to not go through. When it gets leaky from poor diet, toxicity, maybe lectins in some cases, sugar over many years, then stuff that shouldn't pass through passes through, and then you get inflammation in the gut and you get toxicity in the body, and it's a big problem. Leaky gut is something that most people probably have that are over 50 living on the American diet. It's more of it's for some people it's more of a problem than others. That's another big buzzword, leaky gut. You know, I think I might have leaky gut. Yeah, well, you and everyone else, right? So I don't really get into that. If I'm testing the body and I'm going through all the organs and I find the small intestine to go weak, and then I'm going to start looking at it. But I go by what the body tells me. You see, the body has an innate intelligence. It knows what it needs. It knows how to heal itself. It knows how to heal a cut. How does the body know how to heal a cut? You don't have to think about it. You know, heal, cut, heal. You don't have to do that. You just live your life and the thing heals, right? When you're Nina's age, it heals much more quickly, right? When you're my age, it doesn't heal quite as quick. But this innate intelligence I really rely on, and that's when this muscle testing comes in play, because you're communicating with the body's innate intelligence and it's telling you what you need, you know? So it's just being in alignment, you know, with how the body functions, and I like the way we are able to communicate with the body through the muscle testing and finding the correct whole food nutrition to negate those problems. Okay. So I think we're going to wrap